Apparently, Jake Paul has been ranked number 14 by the WBA in the Cruiserweight division, coming off his win against Chavez Jr. last weekend. I haven't watched the fight yet, to be honest. I couldn't watch it live because I was working at the time, and I just haven't gone back to look at it yet. That being said, I heard very mixed reactions online. Chavez Jr. supposedly didn't even throw a punch of significance until the 7th round, and Jake banked the early to mid rounds just by putting out volume over any real substantial shots. Towards the back end of the fight, Chavez Jr. opened up and poured on the offense. From the little bits and pieces I've seen on social media, Jake got beat up by Chavez Jr. when the latter actually got stuck in and fought like a Mexican in rounds 8, 9, and 10. I need to go back and watch the tape to see the full fight on its own. I'm actually curious to see how Jake has improved since his last outing. But with that said, even if Jake Paul knocked Chavez out in the first round, in the first fucking second, I don't think having a win over a career middleweight justifies him being ranked by the WBA in the Cruiserweight division. The only Cruiserweight Jake Paul has been in the ring with was Tommy Fury, and Tommy beat Jake handedly. But the WBA are just selfish, greedy, and of course, looking at the most lucrative boxer they can slap a world title on. The WBA only gives a shit about that 3% they take from world champions when they fight. And alongside many other reasons, it's why I'm hoping to see these 4-belt organizations become obsolete one day. Anyway, Jake Paul being ranked number 14 makes it possible for the WBA to make him a mandatory challenger for Zurdo Ramirez. Not through merit or climbing up the cruiserweight rankings properly, but just by being a popular name for the WBA to piggyback off of. If Jake Paul takes on Zurdo Ramirez for his next fight, we've all got to commend that. He'll get destroyed by Zurdo, and there's a 0% chance Jake would win the fight, but it would be good to see him in there with an actual professional cruiserweight who isn't past his use-by date. As a fan of the sport though, I would be annoyed by Zurdo if he takes the Jake Paul fight next, which he certainly will rather than fight w.a.d.e for unification. Jai has been keeping himself busy fighting less than stellar opposition, waiting for the chance to finally get a deal signed with Zurdo, but I don't believe Zurdo wants that fight in the slightest, and if a Jake Paul bout is on the table, he'll no doubt pick that option instead. Zurdo and w.a.d.e Jack are comfortable with their belts, and do not seem interested in unification whatsoever, which bothers me as a big fan of the guy who wants to unify and collect belts with w.a.d.e. I want the cruiserweight division to be interesting, but unfortunately it's one of the more shallow weight classes, and 2 out of the 3 champions in the division, in Zurdo and w.a.d.e Jack, have mentioned wanting to fight Jake Paul more than fucking w.a.d.e, one of the major fucking belt holders. It's getting sad, but you really can't blame Jake Paul on this. Jake is just an opportunist, and fair enough, I guess. Jake should have never got ranked in the first place, and like I've said many times, cruiserweight is one of those divisions where Jake can actually cherry pick guys to beat. Like, there's a ton of older cruiserweights that hold a pretty decent ranking inside the division. Now, they're tough and might give Jake some problems, but they're beatable all the same. Jake and his team could have picked fighters like Claudio Squayo and other journeyman cruiserweights to destroy, rather than continue to fight washed middleweights like Chavez Jr. and old age pensioners like Mike Tyson. It wouldn't actually be out of the question for Jake Paul to climb the rankings at cruiserweight legitimately. He'd need to be careful and really research who he picks for his opponents though. But for the WBA to rank Jake Paul so high, fuck me, shame on them. I don't begrudge Jake at all for getting ranked. I actually think it's fucking hilarious, and I can't wait for the amount of shit he's gonna talk with this new ranking. But the WBA are cunts. Are spineless, selfish cunts. End of discussion.